Raiders! It's Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter. That's right, Murf and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Touchdown! Eddie Stabler goes all the way.
We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby. Well, I love this team. I think this team can win. I think this team can win.
I was trying to think of a slick little ad-lib freestyle to put to that drum beat there when it ended there, Murf, but nothing came to mind, so I guess we'll just start with our normal intro here. Welcome in to Raiders Fan Radio. I am your host, Sonny Dago. With me in studio, as always, is my co-host, Murf. Murf, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm never rocking the mic with the pantyhose. And, man, Sonny, I'm really fired up about this fight tonight, man. I know this Raiders Fan Radio, and we're still supposed to talk all about Raiders football, and I'll keep it short. But, man, I'm fired up about this fight. I got the first time I bought a boxing match in a long time, probably since, like, Holyfield Lewis, I want to say, the first time. Like, that's probably the last time I actually paid for a fight and didn't just go somewhere to watch it. And I've bought a lot of MMA fights, but this will be the first time I bought a boxing match. And so going to have some people over going to watch the fight. And as Dan Patrick said this week, you are going to see some sort of spectacle at some point. It's just a matter of what we are going to see.
It's correct. It's correct. I'm kind of back and forth on who I want to win. I don't like McGregor's arrogant kind of boastfulness, but at the same time, Mayweather, you know.
Oh, yeah, because he's not, because Mayweather's not, right?
Yeah, I mean, but then the domestic violence and all that and stuff, you know. So I really don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just there to see the spectacle. So that's where I fall with that. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be good times. But all right, this is episode number 44 of Raiders with an S. Raiders Fan Radio.
Podcasting my age today, Sonny.
Podcasting your age today, 44. There you go.
That's
there
right.
you go.
And I won't compare it to your waist size, but it's got to be within a couple digits.
Like 10.
What does that mean? Was that mean?
Like we're 10 digits away. South. So we're 34.
34?
Okay,
you haven't been at 34 since the 8th grade. Who are you fooling?
It's kind of like what I do for a living, right? So I work with adolescents who use substances and mental health issues and stuff like that. And I'll say, hey, how'd you do over the weekend? They're like, I drank a couple. You mean you drank 10? Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah.
34. It's like 38. Yeah.
Hey, 34, 38, 30, what,
it's
40,
all the
whatever
same,
it takes.
all the same,
Man,
all the same.
It's like that line in Mr. Mom when the guy comes walking in and Michael Keaton's like trying to put on the air that he's the man of the house and that he's rough and tough. And the guy comes in and he goes, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm doing a little electrical work. And he goes, oh, yeah? You're rewiring some stuff? And he goes, yeah, sure am. And he goes, you rewiring it in 220? And he goes, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, episode 44. A lot of stuff on the horizon for this episode. But first, Murf, we want to jump into the Sea of Fans mailbag.
There he is, fading, looking. He's under the gun. He's caught, he throws. It is. Oh, he caught it.
Never gets old, Murf. Never gets old. Takes me right back to that night. That was a good time there at Oakland Coliseum. All right, Murf, what do we got this week for the Sea of Fans mailbag?
Well, once again, we go to our San Diego correspondent, Johnny in San Diego.
Hey, Sonny, Murf, it's Johnny in here in San Diego. Just wanted to ask a general question, man. I've been noticing with all the hype that the Raiders are getting, they're the top team taking bets on in Vegas to win it all. And I usually go to 95.7 The Game, just to get my Raiders coverage as well, for some of the personalities there with Greg Papa. But I'm noticing that the station is going out of their way to not talk about the Raiders. I think they're still butthurt that the team is going to leave in 2 to 3 years, and they're really pumping up the 49ers, almost like they're interviewing for the 49ers and take over as their flagship. And I'm thinking, why would you do that when you have a team who could be winning multiple titles in the next 2 years? I mean, they're primed to do this, and you're going to the other side. You're not pumping up your best client right now. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the only one that's actually that's talking Raiders, and for the entire lineup is Papa, and he's a radio voice. So I just tune into him because the morning show, they could care less. It's all basically Chargers stuff, and Chargers and 49ers when they have Lorenzo Leon doing the morning show, and he's basically pumping up the Chargers. So I just want to see what you guys thought. Aside from them, I'm going to you guys to get my coverage, get my takes, listen to what's going on, reading Ted Gwynn, who's amazing on Twitter, breaking down all the footage and stuff. So just wanted to throw that out there and see what you guys thought. Cool. Take it easy, man.
Johnny, thanks for the call and the voicemail. I appreciate you calling into the show all the time there. Interesting, Murf, about 95.7 The Game down there in the Bay Area, not talking a lot of Raiders. I used to listen to them quite a bit on TuneIn Radio, on that TuneIn Radio app, and I kind of stopped just for whatever reason. But I would think, I imagine there's politics involved, and how much do you want to invest in the team that's leaving your area versus the team that's going to stay, which is the Niners. So on a business end, it makes sense to be all in with the Niners and give limited coverage to the Raiders. But I think to Johnny's point is the Niners freaking suck still, and the Raiders are on the cusp of maybe being a Super Bowl contender. So for the here and now, what would you do, Murph, as a radio station? Would you not cover the Raiders? Like would that make a lot of sense or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you on listening to 95.7. I would hit them up on their Listen Live app or whatever on my phone now and then and listen to it in the car. And just not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, I flipped them on because I was thinking, I forget what it was. It was something going on in Raider land, and I wanted to get, a local take on it. And sure enough, I turned it on. They were talking about frickin' the 49ers. And I'm like, what the? That's weird, And I just thought that was especially because, like you said, the Niners aren't that great. There's not a lot of, the most topical thing about the Niners right now is Colin Kaepernick, who has nothing to do with the Niners anymore. So, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of an irrelevant thing. Maybe Niner fan wants to talk about John Lynch or whatever, but when the whole scheme of things, they're the lesser of the story when it comes to them and the Raiders. So the only thing that it can be is a little bit of sour grapes, right? Like that's the way that I took it as far as their lack of coverage. And it makes sense from a long-term business perspective why you wouldn't invest, I guess, in the team that's there now, and you invest in the team that's coming in the future or whatever. But here's something else that I know, and it's been a long time since I lived in the Bay Area. It's been over 20 years. But back when I used to live in the Bay Area, and there was the Ticket 1050, and there was KNBR, and it was all the whatever typical sports talk stations that were around. It didn't matter who it was. There was always been a Niner Giant slant in the Bay Area. And living in San Jose and the stations that we got down there and everything, it didn't matter who it was. There was always a slant for those teams. Now, granted, for most of that time, the Raiders were in Los Angeles, but even still, it was like you got very little Warriors coverage. You got very little A's coverage. The Sharks didn't exist way back when. But even then, when they did start, there wasn't a lot of hockey talk going on. And it was all freaking Giants and Niners. So I'm not too surprised. But what I am surprised is the overall sentiment of not only the broadcasting entities like the TV shows and the radio, but just how the Raiders have gotten the cold shoulder in this whole thing. And thankfully they've sold out, and thankfully attendance isn't going to be an issue in these last 2, maybe 3 years in Oakland. But I'm surprised that And I wonder if it gets to a point to where, the Raiders are barreling into the playoffs and they're at full strength and, they're the darlings of the NFL, which we all kind of expect them to be this year. I wonder if then that'll change. If then, because at the end of the day, it's all about the money. We always say, you want to know why something happens in the NFL? Follow the money. And so the money's going to be there on the Raiders because they're going to be on Sunday Night Football. They're going to get flexed into these spots. They're going to be your primetime playoff games. The Raiders are going to be on the forefront of NFL coverage unless something disastrous happens. And so I wonder what the sentiment then will be. I wonder if those, professional entities will then adjust and then become more of a supporter of them. And then the last part of it is the Southern California slant that Johnny has mentioned before. That doesn't surprise me a bit. I mean, we've said from day one that the most popular team in Southern California is the Raiders. And that's evident by the lack of tickets that have been sold by the upcoming Chargers-Rams game. The most popular team down there is the Raiders. And so, yeah, they're going to get the coverage in Southern California, whether that's San Diego or whether that's LA. And then it's only going to increase as the Raiders eventually make their way down there and are just a little bit east in Las Vegas.
So, Johnny, I think what I've done personally, I look to elsewhere for my Raiders coverage. Obviously, the day of the age of the internet, you don't have to rely on the radio so much anymore. And so, through Twitter, I found a lot of guys that I like reading and stuff like that. Scott Winter is quote unquote, probably one of the most knowledgeable guys around for the Las Vegas stuff, and also just knows football. Ted Wynn is great at breaking down coverage. Gypsy Safety always posts kind of cool videos and stuff like that. There's an Oakland Raiders forum on Reddit, which always has interesting articles to read. Black Hole Banner is a good website. They have a good podcast. Pillaging Just for Fun is another site that posts podcasts here and there, but they have like a tremendous comment section. The Raider forums. I mean, there's just a plethora of other options to listen to and to listen also to read about the Raiders and get different Raider coverage and stuff like that. So, I think nowadays it's all about appointment listening. A podcast essentially is appointment listening. When you're ready to listen to the Raiders, you can download something and listen to the Raiders for an hour and a half. You don't have to turn on the radio no more and hope that they're going to cover your team or the dreaded, hey, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk about the Raiders. And then you listen to just garbage for the first half hour and then you get 5 minutes of it and then that's it and stuff. It's the worst, And so now with appointment listening, essentially, you have all sorts of podcasts. Charlie Boots, the Raider Life podcast, he always interviews, former Raiders and stuff like that. And so that's a cool, different take on it. So there's just a plethora of other options to choose. But I imagine as this continues further, as we get closer to Vegas, you'll be less and less Raider coverage in 95.7 and more Niner coverage. And I think that's just kind of the way it is. I know there's a couple stations down there in Vegas. I know there's one that Scott Winter goes on. I think it's with Tom Barton Sports on Sunday nights. They do a Raider segment and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds, huh, Murf?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you called it. Like, it's only going to go one way eventually, and it's already kind of been that way to begin with. Those bias have already existed, so now it's just the time to amplify them, right? Because, like he said, everybody's butt hurt.
Yeah, and this is why we grew up hating the Niners and the Giants, unless you're Murf and you kind of like the Giants, which I don't understand
like the Giants
why.
A little bit, man. Yeah.
All right, Murf, let's talk real quick about the Tennessee game. We are going to be partnering with the tailgatetn.com, but I recommend you just go to their Facebook page. It's called The Tailgate TN on Facebook. We'll be hanging out there during the tailgate, doing a live show. It's all you can eat, $30, buys you Famous Dave's, and all you can drink alcohol and non-alcoholic beers. Me and Murph, we don't really drink. And so you can drink soda drinks, soft drinks, lemonade, all that stuff. Alcohol, if that's your drink of choice, whatever your flavor. Unlimited Famous Dave's barbecue for $30. There'll be a live DJ. Tons of Raiders fans. It's on the corner of Russell Street and Interstate Drive right there, right on the left-hand side of the Quality Inn and that parking lot right there. It's going to be a fantastic time. Me and Murph are stoked. It's going to be from 8:30 to 11:30. So for $30, you get 3 hours of all-you-can-eat barbecue. That's like 4 meals, right, Murph? You eat when you get there, walk around for a bit, eat again, take a nap, eat again, walk around, and then eat one last time before you go to the game, right? So you could really not spend any food for the game. You just stuff yourself with enough Famous Daves and stuff like that, you know?
Well, and we'll be stuffing riblets and stuff, and chicken in our cheeks like chipmunks. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So that way, by the time the end of the first quarter comes around and we're feeling a little hungry, then you just you start chomping again.
Exactly.
So yeah, $30, man. Look. You can't go to Famous. If you go to Famous Dave's right now and go sit down in there and eat a big meal and have a few cocktails, you're spending $30 easily. Not to mention that if you go inside the stadium and you want to go eat inside the stadium, what are you going to get for $30? Some popcorn, a pretzel, a hot dog, and a souvenir cup. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Like. That's it. It's not only a smoking deal, it's going to be a really cool, it's all, it's a buy. You got to buy to get in. So it's a really, kind of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. I don't want to say a formal thing, not a structured thing, but it's like a planned party.
A cover charge.
Yeah. It's already like everything is there. Like your whole tailgate is already pre-existing. There's plenty of room to move around. Like Sonny said, they're going to have the DJ, and hey, you get us. Right? You get a live recording.
Murph, we want them to go, Murph. We want them to go.
Okay. All right. You get somebody recording a live podcast, and they're going to have fabulous guests come through, guests of some of the different booster clubs, some local reporters like the aforementioned Scott Winter or the upcoming mentioned Scott Winter. We already did the interview. We're going to play it in a minute. But anyway, so friends of the show are going to be there. It's going to be a great time. So come and join us. And if you can't join us, if you're not going to be at the game in Nashville, be sure to like our fan page. It's Raiders Fan Radio on Facebook. You can't miss us. I think the official thing is at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Find us on there, like our fan page, and we will be broadcasting on Facebook Live, not only the show from there, but probably some other snippets and some other fun stuff. So head on over to Facebook, Raiders Fan Radio. Hit us up there and check us out on week 1 from Nissan Stadium from thetailgatetn.com.
And I want to clarify something, Murph. We're not making no money out of this deal. Like, we're not trying to sucker you in. This isn't like we get 5% of the money. We don't get any money. This guy hit us up to promote it, and we said, hey, we'll gladly promote it for you. Can we set up a spot there and stuff? So he's given us a location to set up a couple prop-up canopies there and broadcast our show, and he's going to give us some mic time. That's all we're getting out of it. So we got to pay money to get in too. We got a couple free passes, which also, Murph, we should talk about. We're going to give out some free passes, and maybe we'll figure that out. Maybe next week we'll give them out to a couple listeners. But so we have some free passes to give out, a couple free passes to get in, but we got to pay some money as well. So we're not making no money out of this. We just think it's going to be a fun time, and I'm an inside fatty. I love food. $30 for Famous Dave's, and all I can drink. That's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal. And yeah, I mean, maybe start off because we do have 2 passes to give away that will get you in free to the event. So start off by calling us at 909-345-3346, 909-345-3346. Tell us you're coming to the game. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the show. We'll play it on the Sea of Fans segment. And let us know you're coming because we got to find out who's coming first before we give them away, right? So certainly let us know that you're coming to the game. I know we've gotten a lot of awesome feedback already on Facebook for some folks that heard about it last week and have already signed up and have already, bought their tickets. And so they're going quick, but there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of room. There's room for like 1,500 people in this thing. So y'all come on.
All right, topics of the day. We have an interview with Mario Tovar from RaiderRamble.com, good friend of the show, was on the show a while back when he was first starting out as a writer, and the website has blossomed since then. So he came back on the show to kind of update us about what's going on there. After that, we're going to touch on the Cowboys versus the Raiders history in the NFL. How many times have they played? Who holds the edge? What can we expect when they play in the regular season? And maybe they play 3 times this year, Murph. 3 times in 1 year. After that, topic number 3, we're going to talk about the 3 biggest Polyanna-type thoughts going into the season. Polyanna was the forever optimist little girl who thought she could, bring the world together. So we're going to look at the positive aspect of the Raiders in the 2017 season, but also We're going to look at the 3 biggest sad sack thoughts going into the season. A sad sack, Murph. What's a sad sack?
Sad sack is just somebody that's just bummed out all the time. Always the Debbie Downer, if you will, if you remember that skit on Saturday Night Live.
The Eeyores of the world. Hey, you just won the lottery at $500,000. Oh, man, I wish it could have been $600,000. Anyway, so we're gonna go through and talk about the 3 biggest Eeyore-sad sack thoughts going into the season. And then after that, the last topic of the day is Murph's black hole of the internet. And Murph told me before we started recording the show this morning that his black hole this week is so big you don't want to miss it. So we're going to change the segment to Murph's really big black hole of the internet for today's show. All right. Anyway, Murph, let's go to the opposite of a sad sack and have Uncle Mosh tell everybody where they can find more information about our show.
Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murf. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at RaidersFanRadio, or you can like their fan page at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at Raiders Fan Radio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here.
All right, as we mentioned earlier, we have an interview with Mario Tovar from TheRaiderRamble.com, which we will play for you right meow. All right, Raider Nation, with us, as we stated earlier, is good friend of the show. He's been on before. Back when we were all just kind of wondering what we were doing with this whole podcasting and writing stuff, Mario Tovar from TheRaiderRamble.com is joining us today. Mario, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing, man?
Fantastic. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Anytime.
If anyone's unfamiliar with the Raider Ramble, they're a up-and-coming site. I believe they're now hitting 10 to 20,000 views per month on their articles. You can find them on Twitter at The Raider Ramble and on Facebook, Raider Ramble as well. And again, the site is TheRaiderRamble.com. Mario, it's been about 7-8 months since we last had you on the show. What's been going on with your site since then?
Oh, man. I mean, where to begin? You know, when you guys first had me, I was writing for just multiple outlets. You know, Fansided, Just Block Baby. You had Raiders Wire, Last Word on Sports. I was still kind of active with them. And Raider Ramble was just something I started as a free blog, you know, as most people can get a free blog on WordPress going. And then, I just started doing a lot more reporting. And then it just hit me. It's like, why not just build something original, build something that's your own, you know, get good people involved, people that share your vision, share your dream of just creating something original. You know, we all love to write for the major sites, but at some point you want something to call your own. You know, I think all of us want that. You guys do your own thing. That's a great example, you know. And, yeah, it just took off slowly each month. You know, I would add a couple contributors. You know, a lot of people have come and gone, I'm not going to lie, but they all helped me. I'm grateful for everyone's help. Each month it was just a steady incline, you know. And now, like you said, I believe last month we almost cracked 10K. This month we were way past it. I think we're already like at 12K visitors to the site, which, I mean, you know, when we compare ourselves to the major sites, which I don't do, but of course, I mean, a fan-sided website is going to get like 1 million hits in 1 month. But considering we've only been around since April, you know, or late March, early April, I'd say that's pretty good, you know.
So how long were you writing for other sites, and was it always your vision to create your own site?
About a year, you know, different sites. I think the first site that really gave me sort of any publishing, you know, like sort of any exposure was actually Last Word on Sports, just like our friend Scott Winter, you know. That's a really, writer-friendly platform, but you don't really get taught a lot. You don't really. It's sort of like, okay, here's the platform. Write what you want. We'll check it. We'll publish. But it's like when I started writing for these other sites, I started learning from some of the editors, just how to generate content, how to put it all together, how to market, how to publish. And I just realized one day, especially after I was let go by one of the sites, I realized, you know what? I'm going to create my own thing. It's going to be rough at first. Everything's going to be rough. The site, if you were to go back to how it used to look, it was really rough. The content was rough, but it was, I don't want to brag, but maybe it was like a diamond in the rough. The last few months, I think, are indicative of that. We all take what we do serious, and it shows. The fan reaction has been great. Facebook, Twitter, Raider Nation has been nothing but positive towards us.
Mario, you mentioned that you were let go from one of the sites, and I guess at that point you probably had two choices. Quit, think you're not good at it, give up, or forge ahead and maybe create your own thing. Did you ever think about laying it, quitting, or was it always like, I'm gonna go do my own thing?
Yeah, when it was a double-edged sword. Part of me was like, man, did I screw up that bad that I was let go? Or what exactly happened? Was I not good enough, or can I make it better? And for a while there, all I did was thinking maybe I should just focus on the sites that I was still writing for. But for a while now, I was contemplating launching my own site. And it was actually Nick from Just Black Baby, who I consider, a colleague and sort of a friend too. He supported me right from the beginning, and he didn't have to. He was literally running Just Blog Baby, and he supported me. He's like, yeah, do your thing. I'll support you. If you still want to be a part of Just Blog Baby, we can do that too, which I did do for a while. As I was running Raider Rambo, I was doing both. But then he said, the time is going to come where you're going to do this 100% because I can already tell that it's going to be something special, And for someone that was running a Raiders website to do that, it restored my faith in this business, because there is a lot of negativity. There's a lot of snakes in this business. I've experienced some of that. And yet he was positive the whole way. He didn't have to do that. He supported me right when the site launched, and he would retweet stuff, shout outs, things like that. And you guys are aware of this. A guy doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that. And it was very inspirational, to have a lot of people support me, friends, family, fellow contributors. And yeah, that's pretty much what I decided to do, is like just go do my own thing,
It's a cool story, Mario. This week there was some dust up on essentially with one of the other writers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Somebody, I'm not going to drop names, but basically on Twitter, for those who don't pay attention to Twitter, one guy who runs a site kind of came at somebody else who runs a site and really kind of snitched on him, might be the inappropriate word, but tried to get him in trouble essentially with the NFL.
Reported,
yeah, and there was a lot of backlash against the guy who tried doing that, and it was really interesting to watch it all go down because, and I forget who said it, but there's been a lot of division with the Raider Nation in the last year or so with Vegas, then this thing on Twitter, all of a sudden, like, everybody was united, right? Like even Dr. Death, who was one of our old friends, like one of our first guests ever on an old Raider show we did. But we all know he's pro Stan Oakland. Even he was coming at the guy who attacked, Gypsy Safety there. And stuff. So,
and it's funny you say that because I don't remember who tweeted that, but I still have it in my mind. And I've experienced that, how we were talking about the feedback and stuff I've gotten. Sometimes I do get negative feedback, for example, with like Scott's reporting on a Las Vegas situation, because a lot of these Oakland fans, they're loyal to Oakland, and I understand that, and it's one of those things where Scott, as far as I'm concerned, man, he's just reporting the facts. He's doing a great thing. But it is true when that guy tweeted that out. It's very true. It didn't matter if you were an Oakland fan, Las Vegas, whatever it is you support. it just seemed like it just united everybody.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen something like that since my time on Twitter. Because usually, you're right. Usually there is a division. There's a division amongst people who support the move, against the move. You got a lot of people in the middle that don't really want to. They just love the Raiders. You know, that's how I'm in the middle. I don't know about you guys. I'm in the middle. I just love the team. I love football. Love the Raiders. The politics of the whole relocation, I try not to get into it. I know Scott has been a blessing, though. He does a great job just reporting facts, man. He's doing that.
Should we buy Scott a new hat?
Oh, you know what? I think on one of his periscopes, I went on there as the Raider Ramble periscope, and I told him we needed to get him a Raider Ramble hat, and he's like, "Nah."
There you go. Put a Raider Ramble logo on the front of that thing.
It's kind of his calling card now, though.
Oh, it is totally. No, he shouldn't change a thing. Absolutely.
No. And somebody actually did tell him, because I guess he was playing in Vegas or something at the casino, and he's like, "Hey, I'll buy the hat off of you." He's like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "This is my lucky hat." He's like, "This is the hat that I talked to Mark Davis on." You know what I mean? Like, it ain't gonna happen.
So, Mario, I want to commend Raider Ramble. When all that stuff was going down on Twitter, and there was probably for a good 24 hours, it was pretty entertaining.
I think it's still going on right now.
I was at work, and Murf hit me up, goes, "Dude, you gotta check this out." And I couldn't work for a little bit. You know, it was pretty intense. I didn't see any negativity from the Raider Ramble. You know, you could have easily took some shots, and I know personally you could have took some shots, and you had every right to, essentially, but you didn't. Is that on purpose? You're trying to stay above reproach and just keep things real professional? Is that kind of how you want to run your site?
Yes and no. That is something I do take. I told the guys, look, I can't control what everybody says. I am not a dictator by any means. You know, I know some of my guys like Micah and stuff like that. They know some of my personal issues that I've had with certain people, and they just took it upon themselves to defend. I don't want to say defend my honor, but sort of like throw their 2 cents in. You know, I appreciate. I mean, if it's a great feeling to have your crew back you up. I think that's, you know, your writing staff having your back is a wonderful feeling. You know what I mean? But as far as me personally doing anything, I see it as a business. I have nothing to gain from bashing somebody online. I really don't. You know, I try to rise above that. If people do that to me, I've had that happen to me, and it's like, stay away from that. You know, you have nothing to gain from that. You really don't. It could have been easily. I could have put in my 2 cents. I did send out a couple of tweets to I think it was James from Black Hole Banter, where I agreed with one of his statements. But I just pretty much told him that all of us as editors, as writers, contributors, you guys too, you guys are contributors, you know, to the Raiders, to things like that. It's an honor. It's a blessing. You know, how many guys get to do this stuff and are actually good at it, get recognition, do something beautiful. To me, I see it as a business. There's nothing to gain from bashing another outlet online. That's just my personal opinion. That's just, you know, my opinion.
Raider Nation, once again, we're on with Mario Tovar, the owner, proprietor, contributor, editor, all the lead titles of the RaiderRamble.com. And so we appreciate you joining us here on Raiders Fan Radio. Mario, you talk a lot about your guys, and you know, the strength of your staff is obviously the strength of your product. And you know, you mentioned Scott and all the contributions that he made during the relocation process, and how he presented facts, and it, you know, there was a little bit of backlash from the Oakland folks and at times or whatever. Mm-hmm. Where do you envision for your staff? Where does each guy have his own specialty, like Scott with the relocate? And I'm talking about Scott Winter, if anybody didn't know.
Of course.
Does everybody have their own specialty area of reporting? Do you guys talk about that? Do you just kind of take them as the stories come? Like, what do you do there with that?
As far as like strategizing the content, things like that, I have a lot of work to do. Thank God I still have 2 weeks before the regular season. But as far as individual strengths, I think that's what's helped me, or should I say helped, you know, RaiderRamble.com, is that each guy, each person, each girl now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, brings their own strength. And, you know, like Micah, you know, he loves video analysis. If you go to the website, I did put on there Raider Ramble Media. It's something still in the works as far as like sound drops, video analysis. That's something that Micah, for example, he's on Twitter too, if you guys want to follow him. He does a lot of great stuff with like video analysis, in-game analysis, video breakdowns, which is what actually caught the eye of that particular person we were talking about earlier. and Scott, with the relocation stuff, which I think even after the relocation stuff, I mean, we still have how many years before the team actually moves, so there's still going to be plenty of content, but he writes a lot of good stuff too that has nothing to do with the relocation. He's a great writer, and all these guys, they all do have their different strengths. Some of the guys like to report more so breaking news. Some of the guys like to take their time and just make like a weekly contribution, a well thought out, weekly feature, things like that. And I'm really excited about that. Every person brings in their own thing. I actually need to get back to writing myself. Ever since I started this site, I find myself writing less and less. So I definitely have to get back to writing, and that's actually something I'm working on right now. Keep your eyes open, because I'm gonna have some big plans as far as how content is gonna be edited and distributed very soon. Actually, there's gonna be a couple changes.
I think Sonny does that with our podcast. He tries to get me to talk all the time so he can just kind of sit back and just manage the things from behind the scenes.
I update Facebook, bro.
So all that being said, Mario, so what do you foresee as being some of those big stories? What do you think as we are now, as you mentioned, just a couple of weeks away from the season? What do you think are going to be? I mean, there's some that are obvious, right? Penn comes back. What else going to happen with Obi and Conley, Ken Norton Jr.? What? Like, there's kind of the big stories that are on the in the very near future. What do you think are going to be the big stories as we get into the season, as we go on through the season? I'm asking you to project. I'm actually tell the future a little bit, Mario.
I see. I think, the obvious ones are obviously Ken Norton Jr. That guy is under a lot of, you want to talk about a microscope. The next few weeks, he's already under the microscope. People are already fans on social media. Not myself, but we all know fans are already calling for his head. They want Pagano, to go in there and become the play caller, have Norton be demoted to linebackers coach, which I guess, in hindsight, maybe that is a good idea, but we don't know yet. Obviously he's going to get some time. Del Rio has some loyalty to him, so that's definitely something you have to keep in mind. But defensively, man, how is this going to come together? Look, Scott actually is the one who said it best. He says it's preseason. We're not seeing a lot of the schemes just yet. We're seeing a lot of man-to-man. We're not seeing, they're not going to give away all their secrets in the preseason, so we're seeing a lot of man-to-man. So we want to see what's going to happen when Obi's healthy, when Conley's healthy. You got Amerson in there. How is this all going to come together? Carl Joseph, Reggie Nelson. What can we really expect from him at this point in his career? That's another thing to look at. And also the offense, man. There's a lot of new weapons with Lynch. You got Cook in there. So how is this all going to come together? That's something I'm really excited. You still got Patterson. I think Patterson is that's something people have forgotten about. Maybe because he hasn't done that great in the preseason, but hey, keep in mind it is preseason. So I'm actually excited how they utilize Cordarrelle Patterson as the season actually gets underway.
You mentioned Scott. I read his last article in regards to the defense, and he basically said, don't panic, but there's some issues on the defense. Me and Murf are a little more towards the panic button, panic meter.
It's understandable. Hey, I get it.
Because if a defense comes out in a cover one, there's specific things you're supposed to do in a cover one, and you're not giving away your secrets. But the Raiders aren't doing those specific things you're supposed to do in a cover one, so to say, right? And so I think we got great concerns on the defense. I think to a certain degree, the offense is ready to win now. The defense is like maybe a year or two behind, or who knows how far behind. But I'm kind of concerned. Do you think the Penn holdout is going to have any issues, Mario, on the season?
No. Penn, I think he's a professional, man. He kept himself in shape. Somebody was saying, you can't just plug a guy at your long off season holding out and expect him to be able to do contact football. And I'd say, yeah, you can. He's a veteran. He's been there. Obviously, he's not going to just jump in there to take off where he left off last year after he was injured too in the playoffs, right before the playoff game. But I think he'll be fine. If anything, I'm really excited about what we saw from guys like Sharp, for the future, in the preseason. Again, it is preseason. I get it. But I feel fine. I think the offensive line is going to get addressed. I hope it does, obviously, in the first few rounds. next year's draft. So I'm not worried about that at all. I'm just worried. I think it's everybody. I think everybody's worried about the defense. I was sitting in the black. I had the honor of sitting in the black hole for that game versus the Rams, and man, I kept seeing Sean Smith getting burned, and yeah, the fans, the fans are not very patient right now, man. They're already calling for Sean Smith's head in the sidelines. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's probably gonna get ugly, but hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully figure something out between now and then. There's still a couple weeks to figure out some of the kinks. To
Sean Smith's credit, he covers tight ends really good on Madden. And that's where I use him for, is on Madden on the Xbox.
I remember everyone was so ecstatic
Yeah.
when Reggie picked him up. He was part of that group of guys that he picked up. I believe it was with Kelechi, right? It was that whole group of guys that he picked up, and we're like, oh, we're back. And it's been a letdown, even when somebody like Woodson, who, he really gives off an image of, he's a professional, but he's also a nice guy, and for him to just burn him the way he did after I think it was the Saints game, right, when he just completely went off on him.
Oh, that was when Cooks tore him up, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh man, but hopefully this is probably going to be one last year I think he's going to get to see what he has left, if anything at all. Same thing with Reggie. I think I'm sure he sees
Nelson, right? Not McKenzie.
With Nelson. No, not McKenzie. Not McKenzie. Yeah, with Nelson, Obi's going to be creeping up on there. We're going to be seeing the next couple weeks, hopefully, what he can bring. And if Nelson is, he's not going to go anywhere. I think Nelson's leadership, he's a Pro Bowl guy. They're not going to cut him out of the blue. But
not this year, but his contract's up, and he's expensive and he's old. And I think that absolutely that when you look at Carl Joseph and you look at Obi and you look at Ed, and heck, now Luani, right? We're getting deep at safety, so I don't think Reggie's going to be part of the Raider team past this year by any means.
And those are some kids actually I'm definitely going to be looking at today's game as Luani too. All the guys on the Ramble team are excited about this kid.
Mario, we just watched Edelman go down for the season. One of those unfortunate injuries. Yes, he's on the Patriots, and if you're a Raiders fan, you're supposed to hate the Patriots, right? But really, you got to respect the Patriots. If you're a football fan, I get the passion, and I hate the Patriots, regarding the Tuck rule and all that kind of jazz. Does that hamper their season? And maybe a follow-up to that is, as a Raiders fan, we play the Patriots this year in Mexico City, and we also kind of want to beat them in the playoffs. Do you want them injured, or do you want them intact, or does it matter to you, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think as a fan, a lot of fans are probably just happy that they feel that maybe the Patriots are a little bit weakened now by that injury. Honestly, I think they're going to be fine, man. Belichick, you want an example of next man up, that's probably the equivalent right there as far as the NFL level. It's always been next man up, whether it's injuries, player cuts, losing players to free agency. It's literally next man up. I think they'll be fine. As far as the matchup, of course you want the Patriots at full strength. You want to know where the Raiders stand. That's going to be probably the biggest game of the season. What do you guys think? I think that's going to be the biggest game of the regular season, at least.
That of the Cowboys, yeah, for sure.
that too, yeah. And, it is a shame, man. I was really looking forward to seeing a complete Patriots team. But as far as the actual Patriots team, the Pats, they'll be fine, man. It's next man up. And I don't think anyone can argue that, before you get into, advanced, statistics and things like that. It's next man up, and they're going to be fine. I really do think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, they have plenty of depth at wide receiver, and they won a Super Bowl last year without a guy named Gronk. Who now they have back
there
again.
You go. There you go.
I heard him last night. They said a million times that Julian Edelman is a safety valve for Rob Gronkowski or for Tom Brady. And I'm thinking, yeah, because Gronk's not in the game. When Gronk's in the game, that's his safety valve. Tom Brady just invents his safety valves. He does. You know what I mean? Troy Brown once upon a time was a safety valve. They're going to be fine. And as far as it relates to the Raiders, bring them however they're there, because part of the NFL, part of playing the NFL and part of fielding a team in the NFL is keeping them healthy. And look, if anybody has anything to bitch about with injuries, it's us, right? Look what happened to us last year, for crying out loud. So, I mean, if we got to take the Patriots, without one of their stars, then so be it, man. And when you look back at the history of our organization, heck, the Raiders, we took advantage of the Steelers getting hurt back in the 70s, and that's one of the things that helped us win our first Super Bowl. So, it is what it is as far as that goes. And so I'm with you though. I think it's going to be the game of the year down there in Mexico City. And what do you think? You think the Raiders got enough as they sit today, as you look at the team and stack them up today, Mario? Do the Raiders have enough defense to handle Tom Brady and the offense that the Patriots are going to put on the field?
As a fan, I want to say yes, but as somebody that, all of us who cover and follow them a lot more closer, I am concerned. But, there's still a lot of time between now and November when they play. We don't know exactly how the defense is going to shape with Joseph, with Conley, with Obi, with everybody plugged in, the defensive line, everything, coming together. Right now, is it still, if we were to say like right now, Patriots and Raiders, probably not. But let's say.
Well, you're not a true fan then, Mario.
In all honesty.
If you don't think Matt McGloin can win a Super Bowl, you're not a real fan.
If they were to match up right now, yeah, I would be worried about the defense just because of what we've seen. But it's it's like Scott says, it's the preseason, But if we were to go by what we see right now, of course, I would definitely be worried. But we still have a few weeks. We don't know what's going to happen. Heck, we don't even know. I was telling you guys off air, we don't know if Kent Norton Jr. is going to make it past the first week or two. We really don't know. He's under such a microscope. We don't know what's going to happen. Will Del Rio take over all the play calling? We don't know what's going to happen. Right now, yeah, I am worried. Of course I'm worried. But hopefully between now and then, the Raiders can take them. I really do believe. But a lot of football left to be played, man. We haven't even gotten into the real stuff yet.
Right. Hey, Mario, real quick, we want to start wrapping up here. Who are your writers on the Ramble right now? Who's writing for you, and who kind of does what?
You mean like as far as like the whole staff, like just everybody?
Yeah.
I have, obviously you guys know Scott. Scott was one of my biggest, earliest supporters, I should say, along with you guys. You guys were the ones that took notice of me and stuff, but so did Scott. And he's been with me ever since. And it's funny.
Wait. Who did first, us or Scott?
You know what? Honestly, I don't remember.
This is important, Mario.
I'm gonna go with us.
I'm gonna go with us too.
I'm gonna say Scott heard about you on our show. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. Scott heard about you through us.
I used to talk to him when I was still writing for Last Word on Sports. I think we talked sort of just socially, not really like, oh, we're gonna launch a site or anything. But definitely, I think once I launched the site, once I started talking to him more individually, more professionally, then you guys came along. I did the podcast. Things just took off. I want to say he contributes a lot more just because he's so happy with what has become of this site. Of course he had his, I'm sure he had his, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of just wary, like, oh, let's see where this goes. You don't want to put, and ever since then, his role has gotten a lot bigger. He contributes a lot more, but more so than that, guys, he really has been a voice of like wisdom, reason with everybody. There's a lot of young guys on the crew, a lot of young people, and he advises them on how to carry themselves on social media, how to address people, how to address the fans, how to carry yourself in your writing, which honestly, I could do that too, but he can do it to a certain level. He's older than me, everybody on the crew calls him Uncle Scott, sort of like a consigliere or whatever you want to call it.
Hey, Mario! Dropping the
time, that works.
Reference. Yeah. Hey.
There you go, man. And like I said, stay tuned. Pretty soon, you have a consigliere now. Pretty soon, I'm going to have capos and things like that. So, there you go.
Look at this. I love it. Hey.
Guy.
No, but
we're made man on Raiders Fan Radio now, Mario.
Made man.
Yeah, on the site, obviously, on the masthead is myself, Micah, and Sean Hildebrand. They're lead contributors, as in they put in a lot of work during the off season, but everybody on this team has been very important. You got a lot of the newer people like Christopher, who actually was writing for Raiders Wire. He shares a very similar background as I did as far as like experiences, if you guys know what I mean. And I got to meet him actually in person too during the Raiders game. So that was pretty awesome.
And then Mario, what's the vision for the Ramble coming up? Like what's next? What's on the horizon for the Raider Ramble?
I think the biggest thing for us is just staying focused, staying grounded. Don't get a big head. Just continue grinding out the content. It's amazing. I think all of our supporters forget that we've only been around a few months. This is going to be the very first regular season that we do our best to cover the team, cover the season. So to answer your question, I mean, we just want to keep going as we're going right now. Just growing, more exposure, more respect. I'm all about gaining people's respect. I think that's something that's people sometimes forget about. That's a big thing in this business. More so than making money, more so than getting followers on Twitter. It's about respect. Gaining respectability for your site. That's something that Scott has told me in nauseam about. It's about the content more than anything. So we just want to keep growing at the pace that we're doing. Obviously, it would be nice if during the regular season we just explode, but we're staying grounded. That's one of the biggest things I've learned.
And Mario, lastly, again, we're talking to Mario Tovar from the RaiderRamble.com. Find him on Twitter at the Raider Ramble, Facebook Raider Ramble as well. What's your message for Raider Nation as we kind of start exiting the preseason here and getting into the regular season? What's your message to the fans?
Well, Raider Nation, let's just keep doing what we're doing, rooting for the team. The team's great. It's a beautiful feeling. All of us as fans, the last decade plus that I've grown up from a kid, the team was just a doormat, so let's be grateful for what we have. A lot of teams, look at the Browns, they've been insignificant God knows how long, you know what I mean? So just be grateful for what we have, and obviously keep supporting the site. We're on Twitter at the Raider Ramble. Give us a follow, check out the videos that we put up, the content, the tweets. Just follow us. We love to interact. All the guys on there, you'll see them on there interacting with fans. It's something that we really like to do. Obviously staying light and positive. But just follow us on there. Go to Raider Ramble. Subscribe to the email list. That's something that we're trying to really push now. That's something that's really cool because you subscribe to the email list and you'll get the stories delivered to your inbox every morning. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, again, it's Mario Tovar from the RaiderRamble.com, Twitter at the Raider Ramble, Facebook Raider Ramble. Mario, appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll have you on again when the season starts.
Thanks, man. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
take
Mario.
care.
All right, once again, big thank you to Mario Tovar from the RaiderRamble.com for stopping by the show. And just a great conversation, Murf. After the interview, we ended up talking for probably another half an hour just about life and all that kind of stuff. So Mario's a really good guy. I think he's one of the most humble and honest guys I've met since we've been doing this podcast. And that's not a knock on anybody else. I think that's just Mario's character. And the more I talk to him, the more that just comes out. Just a super nice guy, loves the Raiders, is passionate about writing. And what I see from the Raider Ramble is that they're always bringing on new writers and stuff like that. Like they're always bringing on new people. Doesn't matter what walk of life they're from. And we're involved in their kind of group chat on Twitter. And he's just always positive, promoting things. When all the stuff went down last week on Twitter, all the hate and all that kind of stuff going on, he told his guys, hey, hang back. Don't be a part of that, Just took the high road, and I thought that was really respectful and stuff. So great interview. Appreciated his insight and all that kind of jazz. It was fun.
Yeah, it really was. Mario's one of the good guys, as you mentioned, and great conversation and great insight, and we wish him the best of luck. That's you root for guys like that, and it's nice to see that there's a lot of positivity in our community, in our Raiders fan community, because there's so many times we get caught up in the infighting and the negativity. And look, and we addressed it, frankly, in one of those type of situations. But I think that, as long as we can, for the most part, always try to focus on the positive and the good things, then, that's what counts. That's what's going to propel us all forward. We can all hate on each other and beat each other up and not go anywhere, or we can support one another and uplift each other and find our own successes.
I agree. So once again, appreciate Mario coming on. Good story. I liked too how he said that even though he was like fired or let go from one of the sites, he didn't just quiver and say, "Oh, I can't do this." What was I thinking? And just moves on to a normal job and focuses on that. He was like, "Nah, screw this, man. I love this stuff. I'm gonna keep writing. I'm gonna develop my own site." I love that response from him and stuff. So if you're not familiar with Raider Ramble, it's RaiderRamble.com. On Twitter, it's at The Raider Ramble. On Facebook, Raider Ramble. They put out several articles a week. They have a lot of different types of guys who write for the site. Micah does a lot of video analysis. Scott talks about Vegas. They got a guy named Ray who has a long history in the business who puts out good stuff. And they're always bringing on new and upcoming talent. So check them out on Twitter, Facebook, and the website. And it's good stuff. And then speaking of Mario's positivity, that's a good segment into our next topic, which is the 3 biggest Polyanna thoughts going in to the 2017 Raiders season.
I got my Raiders boxers hanging low, covering the crack, because I'm listening to Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by a couple of fans, Sonny and Murf, 4 Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter.
All right, Murf. The Raiders are the darlings of the NFL, and somewhere Al Davis is shoving his hand up through the grave because he doesn't like to be the darlings of the NFL. What the hell happened? It's a good thing he's not here now because that would have killed him if he would have still been alive, right? The Raiders, it doesn't make sense, right? Like the Raiders are the darlings of the NFL. Like what? When did this happen, right? But it's true. The Raiders are being touted as like the good guys. Derek Carr, Khalil Mack, Marshawn Lynch in the community. Like they're popular right now, right? Like they went from being the thug breaking into the dance to being the prom king, at the dance and stuff, or the prom prince about to usurp the king, which is the Patriots, so to say. And maybe that's why the media loves them and the fans love them, is because they represent the best potential to knock off the Patriots, right? And I got to think that's a lot of what it is that they represent the best chance to knock off the Patriots, which we all want to see, right? Especially after last year and how they came back from the Super Bowl. So the Raiders are flying high. They're the number 1 most betted team in Vegas for winning the Super Bowl. They're a beast on Madden right now. They're an 86 on Madden. They're good all around, right? Everybody wants to cover them. Everybody wants to talk about them. Everybody wants to root for them. Now, all of a sudden, they're popular once again. So in light of that, what are the 3 biggest like positives about the Raiders that we can look for in the 2017 season, Murph? And we kind of came up with this topic, and I didn't tell you mine, you didn't tell me yours. So we'll just kind of go back and forth and see where it goes. So I'll go ahead and start. My number 1, and obviously this is probably on yours. I would hope it's number 1. If it's not, you're not a real fan. Is Derek Carr. Is him coming back from the injury, and just his spirit, his leadership, his mentality, his gamesmanship, the way he studies, the way he plays, the way he carries himself. He is our leader. He is. There's no questions about it. He is the leader on the offense and frankly the whole entire team. You could say Khalil Mack is the leader on the defense, but Carr is just the leader of the team. Period. When he got hurt, while we all said we believed in McGloin, I think we were all liars. Because nobody believed in McGloin. We all knew our playoff chances died when Carr went down. We all knew. We all, obviously, you root for your team. You hope for the best. And in McGloin, we trust, the Red Rocket and all that kind of fun stuff that happened. We all knew. And the first pass, we watch him throw. It's like, oh, we're done, dude. So having Carr back, not only back, but a couple big things happened in the offseason. One was his contract. Were we going to lock him up? Was he going to demand too much money? How was that going to play out? He got a team-friendly deal. Yes, he got paid because that's just the position he's in. If you're the quarterback in the NFL this day and age, you're going to get paid. And the next guy who gets paid after him is going to get paid more money. That's just kind of how it works. So right now he's the highest paid quarterback, but in a matter of 2 or 3 years, his contract won't even be close to the top 5 probably, right? And so his contract got completed. That was a big question mark. The other question mark, Murf, was his injury. How was he going to come back from his injury? A lot of quarterbacks and a lot of people in general, if they play sports, when you come back from an injury, it's not so much that it's physically healed, but there's also a mental aspect as well that goes into an injury like that. And so from what we've seen so far in the preseason, he looks pretty good. He looks sharp. He's throwing dimes. He doesn't look like he's timid back there. If anything, one knock against Derek Carr is that he's maybe had a little bit of happy feet sometimes back in the pocket, but that doesn't look any more exaggerated because of his injury. So from what I've seen so far, Carr looks like he's made a full recovery, back to his same old self. If anything, his guns are bigger, Murph. Have you seen the dude's arms lately? Like, I'm not saying he could beat Khalil Mack in an arm wrestling match, but he could probably last for a couple seconds against Khalil Mack in an arm wrestling match. You know what I'm saying? So it looks like Carr's made a full recovery, and he's ready to lead this team into maybe where we should have gone last year, but it's looking promising coming into the season starting here in a few weeks. All right, Murph, who's your number one or your number one Polyanna thought coming into the season?
Well, I had Connor Cook, but no, of course, I had Derek Carr. Yeah, obviously, Derek Carr is number one, and I'm going to assume what your number two is because I think we probably share the top two, and then number three we might have some differences. But
my two's going to be different than yours, I guarantee it.
Okay, well, I picked Khalil Mack because not only for a lot of the leadership traits that you just spoke about that exist in Derek Carr, they also exist in Khalil Mack. Now, he's a little bit more quiet of a guy, and he's not the quarterback of the team, which doesn't matter what football team, at what level, the quarterback is always the elevated leader of the team. But there is no mistaking that Khalil Mack is a leader on this football team. He is absolutely the leader of the defense. He's the reigning defensive player of the year. And I don't see any reason why he hasn't have a good look at being defensive player of the year again. I mean, he is one of the preeminent pass rushers in our game. He is a absolute game wrecker. And you've made the point a couple of times. You would hate to see what our defense would look like without him. But the good news is we got him, and he will make up for a lot of deficiencies that we have in the secondary and a lot of deficiencies that we have in other places, because there is one way to beat Tom Brady, and that's to get up in his grill and to make him uncomfortable. That's the way you beat Dan Marino. It was the way you beat Peyton Manning, and it's the way you beat Tom Brady. And we got a guy that's going to be up in Tom Brady's face, making him feel uncomfortable. And so I think that Khalil Mack is not only the epitome of what a Raider is nowadays on the field, but he is what off the field as well. And I couldn't be prouder of the two men that we have that lead our team on the field, that put on that silver and black uniform. Having Derek Carr and Khalil Mack as representatives of our football team, that's strong. And I think it's the strongest representation of men in this league, in this game, of any team. Of any, and that's not, you want to talk about Polyanna, that's about as Pollyanna as it gets right there. But that's for real, man. I'm getting chill bumps even talking about it. I love the fact that we can be so proud of the two young men that lead our football team, because it's been a long time since we've been able to say that.
Yeah, and I think that was evidenced several weeks ago in one of the recent preseason games, where there's a lot of controversy going on right now in the NFL about, should you stand up, should you sit down, the anthem, all that kind of stuff, and just a lot of negativity around it, And then you see the gesture, Derek Carr put his hand on Khalil Mack's shoulder and was asked about it. And his response was beautiful, man. His response was, it's about love. He goes, I want to show the world that a white guy can love a black guy. And that was it. And he didn't pull any punches, man. He just said, I want to show that we can be friends and we can have love between us. And again, man, like, are we talking about the Raiders? It's like, it's so contrary to what a lot of people think the Raiders are. And this is something we talked about with Mario after the interview, is that there's this negative perception about Raiders fans and about their culture and all that. And Derek Carr is changing that. And maybe in 20 years, 30 years, I don't know how the history books will go down, but we very well could look back at this time and say Derek Carr was the transformation of the Raiders. Him and Khalil Mack together helped change the culture, the perception, and perhaps the future of where the franchise was going. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a pretty awesome thing.
Amen.
So your number 2 was Mac. My number 2 was Lynch. I thought about going Mac, but that was kind of Mac's a constant. Lynch is like, and I guess all three of mine have a very similar kind of unknown aspect to them. Lynch, I was very skeptical until I seen him carry the ball one time. Now I'm on board. No, but man, he looks like Lynch. Like I don't know, dude. The game against the Rams, he only carried the ball twice, and some stupid writer wrote an article about how the Rams defense shut Lynch down because he only had 10 yards for the game. And I was like, are you kidding me? He ran the ball twice. Like, who writes this kind of stuff,
Man, I know, right?
It was ridiculous, But Lynch, as much as we say Carr and Mack kind of changed the culture and make it this like nice, golly gee gosh darn kind of a team, Lynch kind of brings that moxie. Lynch brings that toughness.
That's a good point.
Lynch brings that, hey, Derek Carr's a nice guy, but he'll cut your throat out throwing the ball, and I'll just run right over you, and I don't give a flying beep about it, right? And so Lynch kind of brings that tough mentality. He's going to make our offense tougher. He's going to make our offense mean. He's going to make our offense to where they can't just sell out and throw a dime coverage or a nickel coverage at us because we're going to be running Lynch down their throat. Like, he's going to create a lot of awesome opportunities in the play-action passing game for the Derek Carr and the Raiders. On top of that, I mean, it's just going to open up so much, right? With the addition of Jared Cook, Cordell Patterson, and you already have Crabtree and Cooper, Carr is going to have a plethora of options to throw to, and a lot of that is going to come down to Lynch because they have to respect the run game. Now, I don't expect Marshawn Lynch to run a whole lot. I don't expect him to be the workhorse that maybe he was once back in the day. I think the Raiders are going to utilize him and utilize him well and efficiently, but I think they're going to save him for the postseason. I mean, don't you think that's just a common sense thing, right? Like you brought on Lynch to be that power back, but you need that run game in the playoffs. That's when you need him the most. And so I think he's going to have around 700 to 800 yards, probably 12, 13, 14 touchdowns. He'll be that goal line difference maker, that maybe Murray wasn't. He just looks electric, and it's going to be fun. So I'm super stoked to have Lynch on the team this year.
That's a great one. And coming from somebody who is kind of skeptical on it, I appreciate your insight there because you've said all season long, love what he does off the field, but I'm not sold until I see him carry the ball. So apparently those 2 carries in the preseason
I'm done.
are all
I'm
you
good.
need.
I'm good.
That's awesome. I think you're right. And Marshawn is all about burst. Like that's what he's known for, right?
Exactly.
It's all about his burst. And everybody wanted to know, does he still have his burst? Well, yeah, he still got his burst. And to those of you that are out there that are saying, oh, he's going to run for 1,400 yards, he's going to do that.
No.
Look, slow down. That's not what we don't need him to do that. That's not what the Raiders brought him on for. If I'll be surprised if he runs for 1,000 yards. I think that your suggestion of 750 to 900, like that's about what we're looking for. But yeah, he'll probably score 20 freaking touchdowns. And that's what we want him. We want him inside the 20. Like he's going to be our red zone monster. That's exactly what he's going to do. We don't need him to carry the ball 30 times a game and to be a workhorse back. And that's not what the Raiders got him for. So don't have a high expectation that he's going to put up these crazy numbers other than maybe scoring touchdowns. That's what we're going to see him do. Okay, my third one that I have is going off the field and going to the sideline, and that is Todd Downing. I think that Todd Downing has, and I've said this a few times already, and I'm holding to it, is that I think he's got the qualities and the talent that he will be fast-tracked to be a head coach in the league. I don't think this guy ever sees Vegas. I think that he's going to be a head coach, in Indianapolis or I think Hugh Jackson's probably safe for a little while, but you look around the league and you look at the teams that are, underachieving here the past handful of years. They're going to be looking for coaches, and I think that Todd Downing is going to be one of those guys. And not only from the relationships that he's formed already with the Raiders, but he is held in incredibly high regard outside of Alameda and all around the league. Players, they love the guy. And it was evident most recently, I read something that when the Raiders had their preseason game in Arizona, you know who was hanging out outside the locker room waiting to talk to Todd Downing after the game was over, Sonny?
No, I didn't read this.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk about guys that are respected around the league, class individuals, guys that do it the right way, work ethic, everything, top to bottom. There is nobody that represents the NFL better and has a better work ethic than Larry Fitzgerald. That guy's taking time out of his post-game to seek out Todd Downing and say what's up. Like that. That's all you need to know about Todd Downing. Calvin Johnson and all the big blow up and all that everybody was speculating that he was going to become a Raider. No, he was there to visit Todd Downing because that's what these guys think of him. They think enough of him as a coach that they go out of their way to spend time with him. Now, we have the good fortune as Raider fans that he's spending all of his time with our football team. So although I said that he's never going to see Vegas, I think that we're going to see an incredible impact on not only Carr, but especially on our wide receiving core. Guys like Seth Roberts, guys like Amari Cooper, these young wide receivers are going to benefit greatly from the presence of Todd Downing, and even a guy like Cordell Patterson, who's kind of like, I don't want to say an undiscovered talent, but he's really kind of underutilized. Thank you. Kind of, and I think that Todd Downing is the kind of a football mind that's going to come in and he's going to know what to do. Here's what I think is best about him. So many times coaches and coordinators have their quote system or their scheme, and they try to take the existing personnel and fit it into their scheme. That's not what Todd Downing does. He takes the talent that he has available to him and he adjusts and builds the scheme and the system around the players. That's why they love him, because they know in Todd Downing they have a guy that's going to showcase their talents that are already inherent and God-given. He's not going to try to cram them into a box. He's not going to try to take a guy that's not a pocket passer and make him a pocket passer. He's not going to take a guy that's a possession wide receiver and run him on 9 routes. You know what I mean? He's going to take what he has and then he's going to amplify what they already do well. That's why players love him. We're going to enjoy having Todd Downing on our staff for a couple of years, and then congratulations to him when he gets his new job as a head coach in the NFL.
That's an interesting take that he's not going to see Vegas. I kind of figured he'll do 3-4 years with the Raiders and then probably move on. I mean, he's already moved up quite a bit already in his short career in the NFL. You just kind of put me in a bad mood, man, thinking that he's not going to be there very long.
Well, hey, we want to get that trophy before we leave Oakland, so he's the guy to help us do it.
I mean, I guess it's all a business in life, I guess. You move up when you can if that's your mission. If your mission is to be the top dog, or you have a goal in mind, if it's head coach or whatever, then of course you take the job. But maybe not. Maybe he starts winning. Maybe they win 1 or 2 Super Bowls. Him and Derek Carr are on the page. They have the greatest offense in the NFL, and they're breaking records. Maybe he stays. I don't know. This is the Polyanna segment, Murf. Maybe he stays.
Listen, though, there's one goal of all of these guys, and that's to be head coach in the NFL, unless you're Norv Turner and you've already gotten your shot 6 times and you blew it, okay? Other than people like that are, and there is occasion of the, who am I trying to think of? The Monty Kiffins of the world that are, or the Dick LeBeau's. Even Dick LeBeau is a head coach, though. So, I mean, there's one goal on these guys' mind, and that's to become head coaches of the NFL. And if there's an opportunity, you're going to take it. Heck, you would. I mean, as much as he may love Derek Carr and they have this amazing relation. I mean, that whole concept of here's one. Tom Moore, right? He was Peyton's offensive coordinator for 150 years in Indianapolis, right? But Tom Moore was also 79 years old when he started. You know what I mean? He was already old Todd Downing is a young man. Todd Downing is going to coach in the NFL for another 30 years. He's going to be a head coach somewhere. Sorry. Did I sad sack you already?
You sad sacked the Pollyanna segment, dude.
Oh, sorry. All right, give us your last Pollyanna and let's move on.
All right, my last Pollyanna is Cooper. It's Cooper. Okay. And here's the reasons. A couple different things. One, he's yoked. He put on a lot of muscle. I remember that.
You like his arms?
Oh my gosh, I'm just drooling
Sun's
over
out,
arms
guns
today.
out.
Guns out, gun. Him and Derek Carr, must have just done the routine this year. I still don't think both of them combined could beat Khalil Mack one armed. But he's put on some muscle, and the catch he made against the Rams, where he jumps up in triple coverage, high pointed the ball, floated in mid. I mean, that was like a shot. I mean, that was a catch like Michael Jordan would do. He was like floating in air, and then he just double jumped. It was phenomenal catch in triple coverage. Part of that scares me that Carr is so confident that Cooper can go up and get that, but part of me is like, damn, Cooper just went up and got that, right? So he's stronger now. He's going to be more athletic. The cut he made last year against the Texans on that, what was it, like a short 5-yard out, and then he just did that one cut and two guys bit and he was gone. If he's more athletic, then think about now what he's going to be able to do, right? He's going to be that much more dangerous. He's already setting records after just 2 years in the NFL. He has 2,000-yard seasons. His catch percentage was 55% in the first year. It jumped up to 63% his second year. So now I'm wondering what it's going to jump up to in his third year, right? And I forget the stat, but if he does something this year, if he goes over 1,000 yards or something, then he'll be one of only a handful of players, I think, to get 3,000-yard seasons his first 3 years in the NFL. I know people kind of knock him a little bit for his drops, but they decreased last year. And also last year, people were like, well, he kind of fell off towards the second half of the season. And I think he took that personally. And I think that's why he came back to camp that much more stronger, is because I think he felt, and I heard this somewhere, he felt, he let his team down by falling off. So you think about how good Cooper was already, then you add in Marshawn Lynch, who the defense has to pay attention to. Then you add in Cordell Patterson, who the defense has to pay attention to. Then you add in Jared Cook, who the defense has to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? Cooper is going to be a bad man this year, dude. He's going to be dangerous. You can't just play a high safety over him, because what about Crabtree, Cooper, and Cook? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't for defenses now who play the Raiders. And all three of my guys were all on the offense, because I think this offense could be all of the Marino offense in 84, Patriots offense 07, what the Saints were doing several years ago. This offense could be one of the greatest offenses we've seen in a long time. And a lot of that is also due to Todd Downing, but also the weapons that we have right now. And it's going to be fun to watch. The defense might give up 40 a game, but the offense is going to be able to put up 50-50 a game. You know what I'm saying? So we might have some arcade-type statistics when it comes to the offense and stuff like that, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So my three Polyannas are Carr, Lynch, and Cooper. It's going to be a fun season, Murph, don't you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun season no matter what. We got a lot of things to be excited about, man. It's going to be definitely going to be good. Can't wait to get it started.
All right, and right around the next audio hit here, we'll talk about our three biggest Eeyore thoughts going into the season. So right after this sad sack promo, we'll talk about being a sad sack some more.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Sad sack.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback.
Sad sack.
I'll be lying if I said that it didn't bother me.
Sad sack.
Sometimes emotions is what makes a person.
Sad sack.
Promised Mess I wouldn't do this. But, as I said, there comes a time when
Sad sack.
Oh, I just changed my shirt. My chicken!
Sad sack.
I'm not a sad sack, am I?
You sad sack.
we need to bring back the sad sack segment just so we can play this over and over again. That used to be on a part of our old show, the Sports Degos. We'd have a sad sack of the week, and I was like T.O. crying over Tony Romo and stuff like that. So maybe when the season starts, Murph, we'll bring back sad sack of the week, and it'll always be a Bronco.
Or a Chief or a Charger.
Yeah, or a Chief or a Charger. And we'll go from there. All right. 3 biggest sad sacks going into this season. Murph, I started the last segment, so go ahead, Murph. Start with
All right.
your sad
Sonny,
sack.
I got 3 words for you. Ken Norton Jr. Gosh, is there a bigger sad sack? I mean, part of me wants to feel for the guy because no one likes to have someone looking over their shoulder. No one wants to feel
he's in a tough spot. I'll give him that. He's in a tough spot, dude.
No one wants to feel like every single thing they do is scrutinized. No one wants to feel like all the responsibility falls on their shoulders, and without immediate success that they're held accountable and then ousted. So I get it, but they've gotten to this position because of a reason, right? Because I think that here's a couple of things. Number one is that when you look at the previous defensive coordinator for our football team, Jason Tarver, I thought did a pretty good job, especially considering the talent we had back then. We're talking about Carlos Rogers and Lamar Woodley, and you know what I mean? Like, rewind the clock in your head, Raider Nation, to what kind of defensive personnel Jason Tarver had to work with, and look at what they were able to do. Now, granted, they weren't setting any records, but they also were, I would argue that they weren't that much worse than they are now. I mean, Terrell Brown, anybody? I mean, like, you think about who we had. I don't know. I think that Jason Tarver's job was probably a little bit underrated. So considering that, then Ken Norton comes in and kind of craps the bed a little bit. Coaching, as I've said a couple of times here on the show, that whenever you see regression in the existing personnel, it always falls on the coach. And like it or not, when you're the coordinator for a team, it all falls on you. The head coach doesn't coach. The head coach is the manager. He's the organizer. The guy that has his hands on the team are your position, or the hands on the team are your position coaches and your coordinators. And your coordinators are leading the position coaches, and the position coaches are the ones they're the ones running the drills. They're the ones that are actually doing the hands-on. But it's your job as a coordinator to do exactly what that term is, right? You coordinate, you set it up, you enable the successes of those around you. And you have to be a good leader and a good coordinator. You have to set those people up into the best positions possible in order for them to be successful. And if you can't do that, then you're not a good coordinator. It's not just about calling the X's and O's. It's so easy for us to look at this as fans and say, well, that guy's scheme sucks, or this guy doesn't call a good game. Well, that's just part of it. Calling the plays is part of it. Anybody can call plays. What you have to do is, what plays are you going to call that are going to amplify to do all the positive things I just said about Todd Downing? What are you going to do to amplify the talent that's on the field? And if you don't amplify it and that talent regresses, it's your fault. So Ken Norton, I feel for you, man. And we all want you to be successful. But damn it, you can't go backwards. We cannot go backwards. We are, you mentioned it or you put it very well last week. We are a win now team on offense, and we're a couple years away on defense. Now, look, it's not impossible in the NFL to win a Super Bowl with a win now offense and a couple year defense. We've seen people do it before. We've seen the Colts do it. We've seen the Saints do it. We've seen, there's evidence. Okay, it's possible to do it. But so if Ken Norton Jr. can't get it figured out, then I think Pagano is the one that's going to do it for him. And just like Todd Downing isn't going to see Vegas, I don't think Ken Norton's going to see Vegas either. And frankly, I hate this for him. I don't think he's going to see the end of the year. I mean, he already had Jack come in and step on his toes a little bit, by taking over the play calling and kind of the defensive responsibility in game last year. He's on a short leash again. I don't think that he's going to make it. And I hate that for him. But he needs to just go be a linebacker coach somewhere.
Well, maybe he gets demoted to linebacker coach for the Raiders. Maybe they have Pagano take over the defensive play calling and the defensive total coaching, and then he goes back to linebacker coach or something like that. You know,
but like coordinators all want to be head coaches. Once you're a coordinator, you're not going to go be a position coach on the same team. You're not going to do that. He'll go be a linebacker coach in, Cleveland next year or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it won't be with the Raiders.
Nah, I like him. I wish him the best. I mean, obviously, we're all fans of the Raiders, and this isn't a knocking them segment, but the defense, everybody's watching, man.
We're sad sacking it, man.
All the eyes are on the defense this year, man. All of them. Everybody's watching the defense. The Raiders, we all know their offense is going to score. What is their defense going to do? My sad sacks, I'm in the same category. Well, no, I'm not same category. Two different categories. My first sad sack is Marco Ali. Not because I don't think he's not good. I think he's a quality player. It's just there's no middle linebacker on. We're probably going to lose a lot of credentials for how much we talk about Madden, but the Raiders' defense on Madden is pretty good. Then you go to the linebackers. There's nobody higher than in the 60s on the Madden team. The Raiders have a gaping hole at middle linebacker, and everybody has known about it, and it's still an issue. I don't even like talking about it because that's all we've been talking about. That's all everybody talks about is where is the middle linebacker that's gonna strengthen this team. You got James, you got Jenkins, you got Lee, you got Heaney, but nobody's stepping up to be like, that's our guy. I mean, here it is a couple weeks before the regular season starts, and nobody still knows. People are like, go sign Perry Riley. Go sign somebody. The Niners just got rid of Ahmad Brooks, and then everybody's like, go sign him. Like, we're looking for the cast-offs of other teams to come in and fill the middle linebacker spot. Like, that's how bad it is. We're just chomping it. We're looking at the waiver wire going, that guy got cut. Let's go sign him. Like, if that's where our hopes lie, we have done a piss-poor job at filling that spot. And it still baffles me because you have McKenzie, you have Norton, and you have Del Rio, who all played linebacker, who all know the importance of that position, and we still can't get it done. And you know what? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is they think too highly, like they're maybe too confident in their abilities that they can coach up anybody and put him in that slot and he'll do well. Like, maybe they think they don't need to get that superstar there, or they don't need to get that consistent guy at linebacker because they have the ability to coach anybody up and it'll work. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm getting scared, Murph. It's not looking good for us in the middle linebacker spot, and it's going to be a problem moving forward.
I totally agree with you, and that's where my second sad sack comes in, is that I have Reggie McKenzie on that list, because that's one of the gaping holes on this football team is middle linebacker. So we got Gary and Conley, who hasn't even sniffed a freaking practice yet, and in the meantime, Reuben Foster and Hassan Reddick and all these other, inside linebackers are killing it in the early part of their camps and in their preseason, and it just drives me up the freaking wall. I still don't get it. I mean, there's been a lot of insight from Scott Winter and from Ted and from other friends of our show that makes sense. The points that they make and the reasons that Reggie did what he did in the draft, they make sense. And that's a good justification of why we drafted Gary and Conley, or at least drafted a cornerback early on with in the first round with our pick. But while we can justify all day long the reason for adding depth to our secondary, there is no justification for ignoring the lack of depth, if any depth at all, at middle linebacker. And so I think that is a huge knock against Reggie. We talked last week that he was one of the losers of camp because of the Penn situation. Well, now Penn's back. Well, Reggie, you said you wouldn't negotiate with anybody until they got to camp. He's reported he's probably going to play against Dallas. Get this thing put to bed quick. Don't let this thing linger, Reggie. This is something that we don't need to have linger going in. And so when you look at these issues that we've had with the team and the things that Reggie does, it drives me bananas. And I think that he's definitely a sad sack candidate. And all those things said, he still does a lot of wonderful things as well. I think one of the biggest things or the troubles I have with Reggie is that you're so appreciative of what he does on one hand, when you look at Cooper and you look at Mack and you look at Jackson and you look at Joseph and you look at like all these great things and signing Bruce Irvin and signing Kalichi Osemele and Rodney Hudson and like gosh, he's done so many good things. So I don't want to hate on the guy but at the same time, when there's these other ones that are just like completely ignored, and I don't know how else to take that other than they're freaking ignored. Like when you said, it's not only do we not have depth, we just don't have anybody. Like we're literally patchwork at one of the most key positions in the NFL. And while I know that the days of having the prowling middle linebacker are gone, I understand that it's not Ray Lewis or, Dick Butkus or, what I get it that Singletary or whoever else. Those days are over where you got that guy, the leader in the middle that commands the defense and kind of runs the whole thing. And a lot of it revolves around him. I get it. But that said, it's still freaking middle linebacker. It's not like it's, a guard or something. It's still somebody that's a position that's represented on the field every single play. There's never a play where you don't have a middle linebacker. Even with all the exotic substitution packages, you still got an inside linebacker, right? Like, unless you're just going flat out full freaking, quarters or something, you're all, and even then, I mean, you still got a linebacker. And I don't know. It's just, I don't understand it. And Reggie we trust, right?
Reggie we trust.
Him. But figure this out, man. Figure this out.
Reggie we trust. I'm going to combine my next two because they're basically the same thing, and it's obviously the secondary.
Sean Smith and Reggie Nelson.
No, Sean Smith and Travis Johannesburg Carey.
Oh.
Again, we don't need to go into it. It's been talked about ad nauseum, the issues there. Smith still has a big contract. What are we going to do there? I mean, he can't turn his hips no more. He can't keep up. TJ Carey committing major felony-type eye violations. No longer misdemeanor eye violations. He's committing felony eye violations out there. I don't buy into that whole concept of it's preseason, everything's vanilla, don't worry about it. That's BS, dude. Because if you call a cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, 2-man under, you call whatever defense, there are certain things you're supposed to do. And if you do those things, the offense shouldn't be putting up big gains on you. But we're getting big gains on us, and it's more than just vanilla defense. It's not like we're saying, okay, offense, we'll leave this whole part of the field wide open for you, so go ahead and do your thing. Like, they're out there stopping them, trying to stop them, and they're not, and it's looking bad. And so I'm not going to get into it because we don't need to. The secondary continues to be a huge issue. Will Conley and Obi fit the bill? Hope so. I don't like having to put my hopes in untested rookies to fit the bill, who haven't practiced very much on their own. So, again, much like the middle linebacker, the secondary continues to be an issue. And again, Murph, without Mack, this defense is suspect to the core, man. I mean, I'm a little... I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to alienate ourselves from the Raiders, but the defense needs to step up, and that's just all there is to it.
How about that spin term of eye violations, too? Have you ever heard a more freaking, way to gloss over it, coach, thing than eye violation?
Pretty good.
How about you just say he wasn't looking in the – I mean, you think about it, what is it that we're saying? He was not looking at the guy that he was supposed to be covering. Like,
he bit on the play action.
Yeah, that's not an eye violation. You got, I don't know. Anyways,
it's an eye felony. They're committing felonies with their eyes out there, Murph.
Oh my gosh, eye violations. So, okay, so my last sad sack. This one, I'm kind of probably going off the board a little bit, but bear with me. Okay, bear with me.
I will mute you if you do anything too bad.
All right, Sebastian Janikowski.
What?
Sebastian Janikowski.
It's not getting any better. You're killing me.
It's not getting any better, and he's not getting any less expensive. And as much as I love the poetry of him being the last guy from the team, the last time we went to the Super Bowl and all, I love that type of story. And I wish we could have had that narrative when it came to Charles Woodson. But unfortunately, Chuck retired a little early, or at least early in our eyes as a fan. It was right on time for him. But I think that Seabass is becoming more inconsistent. He doesn't have the range that he used to. You know, he's living more off of his reputation now than he is on his actual ability. And when you look at his stats, it's right there. It's not, and we're not going to go down the internet black hole of this. Maybe I'll save that for later because we are getting pressed for time. But you just got to look at it. I mean, his consistency is not near what it used to be. His power isn't near what it used to be. And he's expensive. And the Raiders are going to have, you know, a lot of money committed to Khalil Mack coming up. We've already committed a bunch to Jackson and Carr. And we know we got Cooper coming up. And I'm just telling you, I just don't think that there's another guy. I don't think he sees Vegas. And a reason why also is that we got a pretty good kicker coming along. Another young, just like Marquette King was right there in the wings to take Shane Leckler's place. We got Giorgio Tavecchio waiting in the wings, ready to take Janikowski's place. And look, I don't think they're going to do anything stupid like in the middle of the year, cut the guy or anything like that. But I'll tell you this, though, if he has another year where he kind of struggles at times like he did this last year and keeps showing that inconsistency, see ya. He's going to be gone.
So you think we should... I don't know about that, man.
I didn't say I think we should cut him. I said that if he keeps up, if he's declining at the rate that he has up through last season, if he continues to decline at that rate this year, he'll be gone. And listen, we may score 40 points, but we're going to allow 41. Okay. We're going to need him to win games this year. You mark my freaking word. You book it right now on August 25th or whatever day it is. You watch. Some of these close games that we're going to be involved in this year are going to require him to come in and hit a 45-yarder to win it, right? Yeah, or hit a 40-plus yarder to win it. You watch, and if he goes the same rate he has been going, he's not going to have the consistency to make those kicks. And once upon a time when this first started, he was blaming King and, I got a new holder, and, I got to kick it off the dirt, and I got excuse, fine. But look, it's going to get to a point, man, where he misses enough kicks, and you watch. It's going to get our attention this year. I think that's what's going to happen. Again, they're not going to cut him in the year, but he's going to be gone before Vegas.
Last year, of anybody who attempted, more than at least 10 kicks, he's 21st as far as field goal percentage overall. He was 1 for 1 inside of 20 yards. 9 for 9 inside of 30 yards, 6 for 6 inside of 40 yards, 10 for 11 inside of 50 yards, but then 3 for 8 from 50 and above. So,
And where did Janikowski make his money? And listen, I'm not
50 and above.
Exactly. And so I'm not saying that, look, that I can go out there and do what he does, right? I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that for what we pay him and what we've needed him for in the past, he's not good at that anymore. He's not good at that. So what does that mean for him? Giorgio Tavecchio can come in and make him under 50. So what are we paying Seabass for? Right? That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. I think that it's on the radar. I think it's on the radar for this year, or at least this offseason, this next offseason.
Okay, we'll end the sad sack segment with Murf taking a run at Janikowski, which is probably going to make our show sad sacked, but we'll see how it goes, Murf.
You're listening to The Violator, and I'm live on Raider Fan Radio. Where you at, baby?
All right, each week we do a little risky thing here. We let Murf go crazy on the internet. The internet, as most of you know, is a place that can be very rewarding when you find the information you're looking for. But also it can be a place where you are watching a TV show or having a conversation and somebody says, oh, yeah, remember that show Golden Girls? And then all of a sudden you go on the internet and you start researching Golden Girls, and it takes you down this super black hole to the point where you end up researching Family Guy, and who knows how you even get there. But the internet can connect you from Golden Girls to Family Guy because it's the source of just everything. Or the ever fun, oh, what's so-and-so doing from high school? And you look them up on Facebook, and the next thing you know, Murph, your legs are asleep because you've been sitting in the same spot for 3 hours researching all of your former friends on Facebook, comparing your life to their life on Facebook, and saying you hate your life, you wish your life was different. And, we all know how that cycle goes. So we decided to incorporate all of that fun stuff into our show, and we call it Murph's Really Big Black Hole of the Internet.
Murph's Black Hole of the Internet.
A journey that begins where everything ends.
Sonny, we ended last week in Murph's Black Hole of the Internet talking about numbers of quarterbacks and about the presence of the number 12 and the upcoming presence of the number 4. And I speculated that Dak Prescott wore the number 4 because maybe of Brett Favre's influence. We know that Derek Carr wears number 4 because of his fandom of Brett Favre growing up. And I thought Dak, being a Mississippi guy, that maybe he did as well. Turns out that's not the truth. The truth of it is that Dak Prescott wears the number 4 because sadly he lost his mother a few years ago, and her birthday is September 4th. So he picked the number 4 to wear in the NFL, when actually previous to that, he wore number 15 because he's a big Tim Tebow fan. So, but this is not Cowboys fan radio. This is Raiders fan radio. It is interesting because the Raiders are playing the Cowboys this week, and both number 4s will be playing. But I found a couple of things. Number one is that I read it somewhere a long time ago that that Derek wore number 4 because of Brett Favre. But I couldn't remember where I read that at. And so, but I did find an audio quote, and I wanted to play that for you because I had a couple people actually ask me about that, is that really why? Yes, it really is, because he's Brett Favre. Here's the concept. You can actually be a fan of a team like we are Raider fans and respect a player of another team like Aaron Rodgers, right? Or Dan Marino or whatever. Derek Carr, growing up, big Raider fan, also loved Brett Favre.
I like the way you play. I've said that at the start of the year. I love the way you play. And this is before you even started a game this year. And the way you've battled with your teammates, I love the enthusiasm. To me, that's as important as anything. And it's just fun to watch you.
Oh, well, that means the world to me because, I wear number 4 because of yourself. And, I love the way that you played, so I got to watch it firsthand growing up. And,
well, thank you.
That means everything to me. You have no idea. So thank you for saying that. I love the game, man. I love being with my teammates. I love competing.
I like to hear it.
Just going out there and doing it, man. It's just fun.
And it shows, you can't, people do fake it, but people see that and feel that right away.
There you go. There's Brett Favre and Derek Carr having a conversation, and Derek Carr mentions, of course, that he wears number 4 because of Brett Favre. So we put that one to bed. All right. So we put the first part of Murph's Internet Black Hole to bed. We know about the number 4 and again, previously discussed the number 12 in the Hall of Fame. But then I started thinking, Sonny, you made a comment about how numbers were actually set up, the numbering system of the NFL. And you wondered, and you asked aloud, why the NFL has numbered structures, the number structures. Let me spit this out. The number structure that it does. Well, it all goes way back to the 30s and the 40s, and when the teams had the single wing offenses and then they went to the wing T offenses and everything. They had a numbering system in place back then so they could keep track of what players were at what position, halfbacks, tailbacks, all that kind of stuff, fullbacks, everything. So that was what the genesis of it was. But when they finally came up with the system that was finalized, wasn't until 1973. And hang on, there's some Raider references in here. So in 1973, the NFL actually structured the numbering system to the way that it is now, and it's only gone through a couple of small revisions since then. So in 73, when they went through and set this initial standard in place, there was a couple of players that got grandfathered in because of their previous number. One that's important to us as Raider Nation is Jim Otto. Jim Otto wore what number, Sonny?
00, sir.
00, because 00s are a play on his name, Otto. Just like a 30-06, right? Aught, O, so 00. So that's why he wore the number 00. And because he was already in the league, when this rule came in, he was one of the very few guys that got an exception and was able to finish his career wearing 00. So since then, there's only been two other major changes. One is that in 1984, the NFL allowed for defensive ends and linebackers to interchange their numbering system. So basically, you could have linebackers that wore numbers in the 90s, and you could have defensive ends that wore numbers in the 50s, a la Khalil Mack wearing number 52. The reason why is that because that position has become not only the numbers interchangeable, but the position itself is interchangeable. When you have a 3-4 defense and you got 100 linebackers on the field, you can't put a 50s number on all the guys that are on your roster. You have to open it up to where you can have other numbered guys on the field. So a defensive guy like Aldon Smith, who's technically a linebacker, can wear a 90s number. Make sense? So that is the reason for that. And then the other major change happened in 2004, and this is when the wide receivers were allowed to wear numbers in the teens. And the reason they opened that up was because so many teams were retiring numbers that were in the 80s, they didn't have enough to go around anymore. Now, granted, it was a little bit of a preference change at the time. You had guys like Randy Moss, and you had players that were like, they were just becoming fond of those numbers. It was like a trend, I should say, that was starting to happen. So that coupled with the idea that people like Jerry Rice's number were getting retired, they didn't have enough 80s numbers to go around, so they opened it up. So that was kind of just the first part of Murph's internet black hole to put all that stuff to bed that we talked about last week. But then, Sonny, man,
wait, your black hole hasn't even started yet?
I'm only halfway through. You ready? Buckle
I'm
in.
gonna take a nap. I'll be right back.
Go take a nap. So when we talked about last week about the number 12 being one of the most represented numbers in the Hall of Fame, I decided to see what was the most represented number in the Hall of Fame. Sonny, you want to take a guess at what the most represented number is in the Hall of Fame?
12.
No.
Maybe 34?
No, your favorite number.
22.
22.
Really?
More
22?
Yes. More players in the Hall of Fame that wear the number 22. And it's funny, though, because it's almost there as a asterisk. And I'll tell you why. So when we look at, and yes, there's Raider connections, folks, so stay with me. So in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there are 11 guys that wore the number 22. There's a lot of guys that you haven't heard of, but I'm going to say their name what am I trying to say? With the intent to, carry on the representation of these guys existed and they played in the league. So Gunner Frank Gatsky, a center for the Browns. Bullet Bob Hayes, a wide receiver for the Niners. Paul Krause, a safety for the Vikings. Bobby Lane, quarterback for the Bears and Lions. Michael Lasky, a guard for the Packers. Ernie Nevers, fullback for the Chicago Cardinals. And Roger Worrell, a cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, here's where it starts getting fun. Emmitt Smith, everybody knows Emmitt. He wore number 22. James Lofton wore number 22 with a cup of coffee that he had.
James Lofton? What?
Yes. In 1993, he had a cup of coffee in camp with the Rams. And what happens is that when you are listed on an official roster at some point during the season, clearly with the number 22, it was in a camp situation. It wasn't even in during a game. But when you're listed on an official roster and you're a member of the Hall of Fame, you carry that number with you into the Hall of Fame. So James Lofton is in the Hall of Fame, not as number 80, but as also number 80 and number 22. So the biggest Raider example for us all is Mike Haynes. Okay, Mike Haynes played for the Raiders from 83 to 89. He went to 2 Pro Bowls and, of course, won that Super Bowl, the Black Sunday Super Bowl with Lester Hayes, and became arguably the greatest 1-2 punch of cornerbacks in NFL history. Okay, so Mike Haynes, strongest representation for us in Raider Nation, wearing the number 22 in the Hall of Fame. But there's one left, and the last one is George Blanda. Huh?
What?
George Blanda wore number 16. Murph, you're crazy. Yes, I am crazy, but he also did wear the number 22. And like I mentioned, even if you have a cup of coffee with a football team and you wear a number for any particular amount of time, it's included. So George Blanda In 1949, started his career with the Chicago Bears. In 1950, he went to the Baltimore Colts and wore the number 64 as a linebacker. The Colts traded him before the season started back to the Chicago Bears, where he picked up what number, Sonny?
Who's that, Blanda?
Yeah.
22?
He wore number 22 in 1950 with the Chicago Bears and in 1951 as a left outside linebacker for the Chicago Bears until the Bears made him a quarterback in 1952. And when he went to be back to being a quarterback in 52, he adorned the number 16 and wore that till the end of his career, which was in 1975 as a 48-year-old man with our beloved Oakland Raiders.
Nice job. Excellent job. Excellent job. Excellent job. Excellent job. That was a really big black hole, Murf.
Kind of like the one that adorns the front of my face. I've been accused of having a big yapper.
If I didn't already know your wife and kids were out of town, I would know based on how much time you spent on that, put it in a black hole right there. Good stuff. As you were telling me that, I was kind of going through the numbers there in the Hall of Fame, and there's only a few that only have one guy. You know, you got 59, Ham, 67, Ricker. But I thought interesting, number 94, Charles Haley. He's the only guy who ever wore 94 that's in the NFL. You would think 94 would be a little bigger of a number there and stuff.
Yeah,
representation, essentially. Good stuff. Hey, I realized this is supposed to be our last segment, but we skipped over the Dallas and the Oakland stuff. We went right into the three biggest Polyanna stuff. So real quick, let us touch on it real quick. The Dallas Cowboys and the Oakland Raiders have played 11 times in their history. Since 1974, that was the first time they played. The Raiders hold the all-time series 6-5, which is kind of cool. And the last time they played was in 2013. It was I believe, a win by the Raiders. No, lost by the Raiders. And they also lost again in 2009.
It was like Thanksgiving or something. I remember that game, yeah.
Yep.
We
In fact,
lost
the last two times have been on Thanksgiving. The last two times they played.
That. Yeah.
So Raiders have not beat the Cowboys since 2005. Located at which stadium in Oakland, Murf?
The Oakland Coliseum?
False. McAfee Coliseum.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Well done. Well played.
Yes. So here you go. The Oakland Raiders have beat the Cowboys in Oakland, I believe, in three. Let's see here. 1, 2. In three different stadiums in the same city. The Oakland Raiders have beat the Dallas Cowboys in three different stadiums in the same city.
And now it's called like Oakland Raiders Stadium. They don't even call it the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum anymore. Now it's just Oakland Raiders Stadium.
In 1974, the Raiders beat the Cowboys in the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, right?
Right.
Let's see here. In 2001, the Raiders beat the Cowboys in the Network Associates Coliseum located in Oakland, California.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And then in 2005, the Oakland Raiders beat the Cowboys at McAfee Coliseum, located in Oakland, California. There you go. There's my own little black hole for you.
Nicely done, man. There you go, Sonny. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, man? That's got to be some stuff. That's got to be a record right there, right? How many times has one stadium been named, different names and stuff like that?
I know, because then you got O.co and then Oakland Raiders Stadium now. So that's, I don't know however many that is, but what, 5?
Yeah, easily 5, yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right, that's the show for today. Long show. It's going to be a long one, pushing 2 hours and stuff. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Super hyped about the regular season coming up. Super hyped about our trip to Tennessee. That'll be a lot of fun. In fact, we just got 2 more people. I was looking at Facebook while we were doing this. 2 more people signed up to go to the tailgate. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you are going to the tailgate, stop by, say hi, come on the show, give us a prediction, talk about the Raiders, talk about your fandom. We exist so you can exist and have a platform to talk about your fandom on. So definitely stop by if you're at that game. And, anything else, Murph, before we go?
Yeah, one quick thing. One of those Raider fans that's attending our tailgate is also the lady that was our 2,000th, how you say that? 1,000th person to like our fan page on Facebook. And her name is Momo Boogie. And so I wanted to give her we don't do shout outs, we give props, right? On Raiders Fan Radio. I wanted to give her props and thank her for not only liking our fan page, you're buying her ticket to come to the tailgate, Tennessee, to join us there. And so thanks to her for being our 2,000th person to do that. And thank you to all the other 1,999 of you that did it as well. We are continually humbled and thankful for your attention and the love that you give Raiders Fan Radio. And, a lot of times we can get caught up in a lot of the negative things that happen in social media. But I got to tell you, man, our listeners are nothing but positivity. It is awesome. We are fortunate that very rarely do we run into anything that's, negative. So thank you to you all. It's just awesome. So thanks, Momo Boogie, and to everybody else.
Appreciate it. And also, Murph, we just want to say thank you to all our listeners. This last week, we made the ranking in the iTunes U.S. professional charts, which is the first time we've done that. As far as we could tell, we were the only Raiders podcast to be that highly ranked in the last 90 days or so. So we really appreciate that you guys are listening, you're tuning in, and even if you turn us off, we appreciate the download because it shows up good for us. So that was pretty huge for us to show up in the professional charts for iTunes. And that wasn't just sports-related podcasts. That was all podcasts all over the place. Comparing us to garden podcasts, and space podcasts, and whatever. Raider Nation is represented on the iTunes chart, which I think is more badass than us being on there. It's that Raider Nation is on there. Like, we have a voice. That's freaking cool to me. So keep it coming. Keep the downloads coming. Let's take this thing all the way to the top, and let's let the world know Raider Nation doesn't mess around in any aspect of life, right? We take over everything and stuff. So until the next episode, it's Raider Nation, wherever, forever.
Hey, Sad Sack. Seriously? You are the Sad Sack of the Week with Murf and Sonny.